Hello, this is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Now recently we've had a look at the Napoleon attack. Today we're going to look at the more general concept of bringing the queen out early in front of the f-pawn, or the Napoleon-ish attack. Please enjoy! I had the white pieces, and as usual I played a Vienna game, so e4, e5, knight c3. Now, as a bit of a reminder, if I played queen to f3 on move 2, that would be the Napoleon attack. Very early aggressive queen move, doesn't do much, not so great. Now, my opponent played the sort of a reverse Napoleon attack, a Napoleon-ish queen move, queen to f6 in front of their f-pawn, and this is just not so good. In fact, Stockfish calls it a straight up mistake, almost heading towards +2. The reason for that in the Vienna is that we've developed the queen's knight early, and the queen's knight on d5 is extremely powerful. As you can see, it attacks that f6 square, but also attacks the pawn on c7, which comes with an absolute fork of the king and rook. So that's a very powerful square for the rook. And so this is absolutely a bad move, generally, but particularly against the Vienna. Now, the interesting thing here is that Stockfish actually doesn't even think that that is the best move. So Stockfish's best line, and just a reminder, the best line means this is the best possible outcome for both white and black, is in fact to play d4. And that there's a heuristic sense here. If you can take the full center with both pawns, it's usually good to do so. And let's see what happens down this line. So they'll sort of try to pin the knight, unpin, they develop a pawn. Now the knight jumps forward with basically a triple fork. They sort of force a check, take back with queen, and queen forced to come all the way back to d8 to defend the c7 pawn. And which means at the end of move 6, I'm ready to castle, I've got some pieces developed, the opponent has no developed pieces whatsoever. It's not good for black. And that is the best theoretical line. So very, very interesting. Now, in this game, I didn't play d4. I did jump my knight forward, you know, as I said, attack on the queen, attack on the pawn on c7. And here, my opponent moved the queen to c6. And that's probably one of the most common sort of responses. So the queen either going to this square, potentially this square, because, you know, they can see that the knight is attacking that pawn. And so they need to potentially provide a defender, queen on either of these squares. The best move for black here actually is to go all the way back to d8 to defend the pawn. But that's a bit of an inhuman move, right? Because if you even played this move in the first place, you're developing your queen, you're probably not going to undevelop. But this is a straight up blunder. And as we'll see, Stockfish +4. The reason why it's a blunder might not be too obvious in this position, but basically the queen on c6, you know, same light square diagonal as the king, is actually at quite high risk of being trapped and captured later on. And we'll see that soon. I develop my other knight, they push some pawns, I develop a bishop. This was theoretically actually a bad move, so it's a blunder. I'm still ahead, but it's a blunder. The reason for that is that depending on a number of things, these two pieces can potentially get fought by a pawn. So let's say they push that and, you know, they capture, and then I bring that forward, that pawn can then come forward, and yeah, that pins those two pieces. So it's something to consider. That probably doesn't do a whole lot. I now short castles, I develop a knight, you know, inviting, but you know, I'm not going to take that, so we'll just keep attention there. Pawn forward, extra defender on that knight. Obviously, there's two attackers. They push a pawn, I push another pawn, so, you know, trying to bring up an attack on the queen, you know, restricting the number of squares that the queen can actually move to. And here they play the push to b pawn, and potentially the queen is lost. Cake, now the queen is lost. Do you see how? I'll just wait a few seconds. The queen is trapped. What I should have done, because I didn't actually see it in the game myself, is the bishop can take, and it's like a 2-hit combo here. Firstly, the queen is pinned against the king, which means the queen is going to be lost next turn, so the queen pretty much must take. So take, but now knight forward, it's actually a family fork, and the queen is now lost the next turn. So that's the best line. Now I didn't actually see that line from this position. So what I did was, okay, I need to have an extra attacker on that b5 pawn, that b5 square. So I brought my knight back. Now there's two attackers. Again, the idea is to be able to pin the queen to the king. So they bring an extra defender. And I bring yet another attacker with a4. And now the opponent makes the wrong move. They need to do something about their queen in that position, but instead they captured the pawn. But now pawn jumps forward, forking the queen and the bishop. They take, bishop takes back, and now the queen is pinned, queen is lost. There we go. They make a move because, here potentially there's another fork of the king and rook, but now rook jumps forward, captures the pawn, and I can now force a rook trade because that rook has nowhere to go. And just, if you couldn't see it, that rook is defended by my queen. Here, my opponent opted to resign because you have to look at the position, plus 14. This knight has no great development squares. That knight hasn't developed yet. This bishop is unable to move. That rook's not going to move anytime soon. They have no ability to castle. It's a dreadful position for black. Good game, GG. My big takeaway is that as a general principle, don't bring out your queen early, especially the Napoleon-ish attack with the queen on the f-file. I hope you enjoyed this video and thanks for watching.